Paris, the city of light. For centuries, it stood as the heart of art, romance, and civilization itself. But in the summer of 1940, that light flickered and then it went out. This is the story of how one of the greatest nations on earth, the French Republic, collapsed almost overnight. A story not just of defeat in battle, but of fear, indecision, and a single day when a city and a people lost their soul. In early 1940, the French people felt secure. The Great War had ended only 2 decades before. No one wanted to relive that nightmare. So France built walls, both of concrete and of confidence. The Maginot Line, a vast fortress of bunkers and steel. A wall of hope stretching along the German border. Politicians called it unbreakable. Newspapers reassured citizens that France could never fall again. In Paris, cafes were full, theaters alive, and laughter floated through the streets. The rhythm of the city felt eternal. But war was coming, and it would not arrive the way anyone expected. On May 10, 1940, the illusion shattered. The German army struck with fury, through Belgium, through the Netherlands. The French moved their best troops north, believing it was a repeat of the First World War. But Hitler's plan was different. German armored divisions, tanks, trucks, and bombers surged through the Ardennes forest, a place French generals thought impassable. They were wrong. Within days, the German spearhead broke through. Entire French armies were trapped before they even knew what had happened. The blitzkrieg, the lightning war, was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Columns of steel, engines roaring, skies filled with sirens. It wasn't just war, it was a storm. The French lines collapsed, communication failed, orders went unanswered, and the government in Paris began to panic. Inside the government chambers, chaos reigned. Prime Minister Paul Reynaud fought to keep control. His ministers shouted over one another, some urging surrender, others insisting they fight to the last. General Charles de Gaulle, young and determined, begged them to flee to North Africa and continue the fight. But they hesitated. They could not imagine France without Paris. One witness later wrote, "We were surrounded not by the enemy, but by fear itself." On June 10th, the French government made its decision. They fled the capital, no official statement, no farewell. They simply left. By train, by car, by any means possible, they headed south toward Bordeaux. As night fell, Paris was leaderless. That same night, the people followed. Millions of civilians began to flee. Families, children, old men, everyone moving south in a desperate sea of humanity. The roads were jammed for miles, carts overturned, fuel ran out. People walked for days beneath the burning June sun. A woman later recalled, there were no words, only the sound of footsteps and wheels. It felt as if Paris had begun to bleed. By June 13th, the exodus was complete, the government gone, the army broken, and the city, the heart of France, abandoned. June 14th, 1940. At dawn, the first German troops entered Paris. There was no resistance, no battle, no barricades. The tricolor flag was taken down, and in its place, the swastika rose above the Eiffel Tower. Soldiers marched down the Champs-Élysées, their boots echoing in streets that once sang with laughter. A French woman whispered, "They came like a shadow passing through the city. We did not scream, we did not fight, we simply watched and wept. Paris, the city of light, died that day, not in flames, but in silence." 8 days later, France surrendered. On June 22, 1940, An armistice was signed in the forest of Compiègne, the same railway carriage where Germany had surrendered in 1918. Hitler stood there smiling. He sat in the same seat Marshal Foch had once occupied. A deliberate act of vengeance. France was divided, the north including Paris under German occupation, the south ruled by the Vichy regime, a government of collaboration led by Marshal Philippe Pétain. A republic born in revolution had fallen in 6 short weeks. But not all of France gave up. 4 days after the fall of Paris, a young general spoke from exile in London, Charles de Gaulle. His words crackled over BBC radio. France has lost a battle, but France has not lost the war. Few heard it that night, but those who did never forgot it. Across occupied France, whispers began to spread. Students, factory workers, and soldiers joined the resistance. They printed secret newspapers, sabotaged trains, and carried hope in silence. For 4 long years, the city endured, dark, occupied, but never truly defeated. In August 1944, Paris rose again. Allied troops, together with the French resistance, liberated the city. Crowds filled the streets, waving flags, weeping, laughing, embracing soldiers they had never met. After 4 years of darkness, the light returned to Paris. But those who had lived through that summer of 1940 never forgot. They carried the memory of fear, of silence, of a city abandoned by its leaders. One survivor wrote, "When the Germans marched in, it wasn't just the army that fell. It was our pride, our belief that civilization could never die." History often teaches through tragedy. France in 1940 was not weak. It was unprepared for a new kind of war. Its leaders could not imagine a world moving faster than their decisions. And that is how nations fall, not always through invasion, but through hesitation. Paris did not burn that day, but something inside the French spirit did. Still, like the city itself, that spirit rose again, rebuilt, reborn, refined by pain and strengthened by memory. The city of light shines today, not because it never fell, but because it found the strength to rise again after darkness. And that was the day Paris died.